Chaos erupting in Haiti as the leader of the gang responsible for kidnapping 17 missionaries is now threatening to kill the abductees if he doesn't get the ransom money for their release. The kidnapped missionaries include 16 Americans and 1 Canadian. 5 children as well, including an 8-month-old, are among those who were taken by the gang last weekend. The story has made national headlines, but to Haitian natives, kidnappings are nothing new. According to a faith leader in Haiti, race is the reason why this case is getting so much attention.
For sure, if there's big ransom paid for these people, you can kiss all of us goodbye, because there's not going to be hope for anybody. I know the case is so public because they're white people, but there were over 200 kidnappings in the Martissant area, whole busloads of people. Yes, it's kind of a litmus test for somebody else who's white like me, or somebody else who's a foreigner here. It's kind of a litmus test, but for the public, it's going to be a sign of, is there any last straw, or are we all totally in the jaws of these lions now?
All right, joining us now to discuss just that, Immigration Chair of the National Bar Association. I'd like to welcome to BNC Live, Orr Jr. Alan, welcome again. So local Haitians say kidnapping, they've been happening for years in Haiti. Is race the reason this case is generating so much attention, as that clergyman said?
Sure, we can just talk about the numbers to know that it is race, because within this month, there have been 119 kidnappings in Haiti. You didn't hear about any of them except for these. And there were 800 kidnappings so far this year in Haiti, and you didn't hear about any of the other 700 cases. So it's clearly an issue about race and also about citizenship. It's a United States citizen and a Canadian citizen that is involved. And so those issues alone express to you that it's clearly about race and clearly about conditions, because we've also been deporting people to this circumstance. And we knew about it. These aren't things that we don't know about, because the State Department lists Haiti as in the red zone, the level 4, meaning you should not go for risk of being kidnapped.
Wow. And great point. The fact that we have been deporting people who haven't been to Haiti for years and are unfamiliar with what they're returning to. As you mentioned earlier, kidnappings have increased 300% from July to September, to be in fact. Why hasn't there been any coverage on those cases? Is it because it involved black and brown faces?
I believe specifically because it involved black and brown faces, and just also because this is a situation of Haiti. They think it's part of the culture that they're allowing to exist, the gang violence they're allowing to exist. So the U.S. has looked away from this until it involved these missionaries that were there on the ground, which it shouldn't have taken missionaries from any of these countries to have this addressed. And once again, it also should speak to the language for which we received over 30,000 intending immigrants at the border, to say we can't return them to a situation where they might be subject to kidnapping or gang violence.
Alan, why are we seeing such an increase in kidnappings? We know the government has been fractured, since the assassination of its president. But what else is contributing to this increase in kidnappings?
I think the main structures, a lot goes back to U.S. intervention and the allowing of these gangs to sort of exist, because many people believe and assume that the U.S. Actions in Haiti, U.S. acts as the president, although they haven't been the president. And I wouldn't actually say the government is stable there in Haiti. I would not say that things are under a stable control when the leader was just killed a couple of months ago and he was the only person that was assassinated. They're basically now just following up, and apparently the individual who led part of this is in Jamaica. So I feel it's the United States sort of turning away and not looking at the concentration of what's going on there. But I do believe that Haitians should be allowed to take control of their destiny again, and that a lot of outside intervention has led to this situation that exists. But part of the cleanup in this situation is the U.S. military or some other U.S. force going in and saying, we're going to make this happen. Even after the last earthquake, you've heard from different humanitarian groups, including the UN, saying, we can't service that area without working with the gangs to get the food to the individuals that need it there. That's an unbearable situation for the Haitian people.
Yeah, and Alan, just to be clear, by no means did I say that government is stable. I said fractured. It just came out a little twisted. I actually had a chance to speak with Gary Pierre from the Haitian Times, and he mentioned that the government is actually in communication and negotiating with these gangs just for access to certain parts of the country. So that sounds like that's giving them a green light to continue kidnapping folks there.
I don't know if it's so much a green light or is it the situation they live in because the government isn't able to control it. I mean, there are some 400 gangs that now exist in a country that is 5 times the size smaller than Florida. So think about that geographically, that it's a very small concentrated country with even, I think they have 7 million more people than there actually are in Florida. So smaller, but a higher population. And that these people have been deprived of basic needs. For example, there's a work shortage. There was a stop of trash being picked up locally. Food is very rationed there. Most of the country is malnourished. And these are things that are well reported in our hemisphere. We spend millions of dollars, trillions of dollars halfway across the world where we don't spend the same amount of resources in a country that's closer to us than California, to the nation's capital at least. And so therefore we need to change our concerns to address that. And yes, the government, just like here in this country, I mean, I think we sometimes don't understand that in these larger communities in California, New York, the police sometimes work with gang members to just make sure society continues to exist. That's not uncommon.
Wow. Wow, to say the least. All right, so we know the leader of that gang responsible for this kidnapping and also kidnapping of other clergy members as well is now demanding that $17 million, or he is threatening to kill these missionaries. What do we know about this gang? What do we know about the leader? And are they capable of following through on this?
They're capable of exacting exactly that type of issue. The United States does not barter with criminals in this fashion to give money to individuals because we don't know where that money will then go and then lead back to having this hard situation. So are they capable of it? They've already sort of proven that they're capable of actually doing the kidnapping. Harming those individuals is another threat. Is this something that, I mean, is this a high-level hostage situation that cannot be addressed? Do we believe this gang has those type of resources? At this, we just don't have that knowledge. But that also speaks to the concern of the safety of the United States with Haiti being so close to the U.S. as to why we would want these gangs to be in control of these circumstances, regardless of the fact that it is 16 Americans that are captive and 4 of those Americans are children.
So what happens next, Alan?
Unclear of what happens next with regards to the U.S. intervention. I mean, part of this needs to occur under sort of, I mean, working with the Haitian government is super important, and making sure it's the government that's established by the Haitian people that's important. The cleanup is a universal sort of United Nations sort of way to go in and say, we're not going to allow this to exist anymore, because those gangs only exist in Haiti because the world has allowed them to exist. We were able to sort of stomp out that type of actions in many places and may even change those individuals to have a different culture. One of the things you see with U.S. and U.S. policy specifically when you look across Central America and to the Caribbean is this sort of looking away from gangs that we help to survive either through drug cartels or trafficking women or whatever that is. So there needs to be a real focus on understanding how to end that. And that's part of what Madam Vice President has sought to address in Central America and in Haiti to stop the push of individuals coming to our border to say, we're going to help make the living condition there for you safe so that you can return and live prosperity in the country that you were born in.
All right, Alan Orr Jr., thank you so much, sir, for joining us this afternoon.